Here we do begin tonight with that breaking news. A 15-year-old student in custody tonight after authorities in Benton, Kentucky say he opened fire in a crowded area at Marshall County High School. Now, that gunfire killed 2 of his classmates. In all, though, 17 students were injured, 12 of them hit with bullets, 5 others hurt just in the scramble. Now, emotions running high as first responders, authorities, and state leaders discuss the first deadly shooting of 2018.
This is something that has struck in the heart of Kentucky, and it's not far away. It's here, and it hits home. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I think about that. We have 2 15-year-old high school students that have been killed just showing up to go to school, and how tragic that is. It doesn't get any worse than that.
Authorities say the 15-year-old armed with a handgun walked into school just before 9 o'clock this morning. Sheriff's deputies eventually catching up with him were told he will be charged with murder and attempted murder.
Now, of the 14 wounded, 15 victims were taken to Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville. That's about 120 miles away from Benton, Kentucky. Our team coverage continues right now with reporter Josh Breslow.
Take a look at this video from earlier on as those medical helicopters were arriving, landing on the top of the adult hospital one after one. Again, 5 of them in total, carrying 5 total patients.
All males ranging in age from 15 to 18. We had 3 injuries to the gunshot wounds to the head. 1 did not survive, unfortunately. It was a traumatic injury that was non-survivable to start with.
As Governor Matt Bevin did say, this is going to be a while before we truly understand what happened and learn all the details of how this played out. In Nashville, I'm Josh Breslow.
And doctors at Vanderbilt went on to say 4 others are, though, expected to survive.
Now, we've learned that one of those 4 is Daniel Austin, a 17-year-old special needs student. His mother telling CNN after Daniel was shot in the arm, a teacher and another student rescued him and then got him to safety.
Now, right now, the motive behind the shooting here is still unclear, but as this investigation continues, we promise to stay on your side, bringing you any updates that we get.
And of course, be sure to stay with us right here on WATE 6 on your side as World News Tonight with David Muir. Detectives working to get answers. They will have much more on that coming up in just a few minutes following this newscast.
Another big story we're following back here in East Tennessee. Investigators in Hamlin County working to identify a woman whose body was found behind a barn.
The sheriff's office canvassing property along Dover Road. Deputies calling this death suspicious. We sent WATE 6 on your side's Laura Halm to Hamlin County. So, Laura, what have you learned so far?
Well, Ryan and Kristen, this investigation is still very, very new. That's why they couldn't share too much information with me. And just like you had mentioned, this death is being treated as a suspicious one. Now, Hamlin County deputies were at this barn earlier this morning. They were dispatched out there to Dover Road around 11 o'clock this morning. A woman's body was found near one of the dairy barns. Sheriff Esco Jarnigan says they're still working to learn this woman's name and her identity, though they do not believe she's part of a missing persons case here in the county, simply because she had only been dead for a few hours when they went out there.
It's shocking. We're not used to that, so it's a pretty quiet community out here. It is sad. I mean, I hate anybody has to find something like that. And bless her heart, I hate that.
Now, Sheriff Jarnigan telling me they're still trying to understand why this woman was found near a barn. An autopsy is being done, and investigators are hoping that they'll be able to learn more about the circumstances surrounding her death. For now, reporting live in Morristown, Laura Halm, WATE 6 on your side.
All right, Laura, thank you so much.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to stay on top of this story for you as well here, let you know any kind of updates we get.
In other news right now, a Tazewell woman pleading guilty to attempted second-degree murder and aggravated burglary, now getting sentenced to 8 years behind bars. Kayla Johnson was involved in a New Tazewell home burglary last November, allegedly with her co-defendant, Michael Gilbert. The home they broke into belongs to Bill Keck, who is a 2nd District Commissioner for Claiborne County. Keck confronted the two, but authorities say they fired several gunshots at the commissioner. They were arrested several days later. Gilbert is expected to enter similar guilty pleas. Well, nearly 3 days after that government shutdown, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park is back to welcoming visitors today.
Yeah, new here at 6 o'clock as WATE 6 on your side reporter Bridget Piorlo explains it's a relief to tourists and the park rangers.
No bathrooms, trash service, or even help from the visitor centers were just some of the things visitors at the Great Smoky Mountains National Park were up against during the federal government shutdown. And tonight, people are just breathing a sigh of relief that federal employees are back to work and everything at the parks are back to normal. It's back to work for thousands of federal employees after a 3-day government shutdown, with members of the Department of Education, the military reserves, to the national parks returning to their jobs. The Starks were grateful to see park workers at the Great Smoky Mountains National Park Tuesday after veering off the wrong trail.
Yeah, we picked the wrong trail this morning. Instead of the hour trail, we picked a 2-hour trail.
We would have been in trouble today.
They were able to navigate their way back on course thanks to the help of workers at the visitor center, services that were unavailable for 72 hours during the shutdown.
We both were concerned because we couldn't do the trails without certain facilities and stuff being available, and then roads being closed. You just didn't know.
To fill the gap during the shutdown, trail guide Steve Ellis volunteered to offer help to visitors.
The visitor center's been locked up, created a situation where I was afraid if it went on further, then we could have trash piling up.
And Tuesday, the park awarded him a Medal of Appreciation.
Us working as a community is symbolic of what the Smokies is all about.
Thank you.
Park employees resumed work early Tuesday, 1 day after Congress brokered a deal to reopen the government.
First thing this morning, all employees that had been furloughed returned back to the park. We're all very happy to be back at the Smokies and welcoming visitors back to the park.
With visitors equally glad to see them back in uniform and the park back to full operations.
I'm glad to see it was reopened today.
And tonight, park employees tell me that everything that is typically open this time of year, like campsites, trails, and roads, are open as of today. In Gatlinburg, Bridget Piorlo, WATE 6 on your side.
The president's signature last night funds the government up until February 8th. Now that's just 3 weeks. And of course, we'll keep you updated as we inch closer to that new deadline. Let you know what happens.
A Hamblin County couple now indicted after their 6-week-old son was left with broken ribs. Melinda and Stephen Helton are charged with aggravated child neglect from the October 2016 incident. Court records show the baby had 5 rib fractures and a broken clavicle. Well, new here at 6, everyone. Plans for a new West Knoxville hospital have been scrapped. Instead, Sonova is focusing on reconfiguring operations at its current facilities.
Sonova currently has 3 hospitals in Knoxville, Turkey Creek, North Knoxville, and Physicians Regional. Now, you might recall here the healthcare group purchased 109 acres off Middlebrook Pike back in 2015 to build a new West Knoxville facility. Well, that hospital was meant to replace Physicians Regional. The decision now, though, means the Physicians Regional will stay open. However, that facility will no longer be an acute care hospital. Instead, it'll be a specialized campus. Now, we're told inpatient services will still be offered at the other 2 Sonova locations.
Well, new here at 6 o'clock, an East Tennessee man and a former subcontractor for the Department of Energy has now been sentenced for conspiring to defraud the government. We've been following this story since 2014 when federal agents conducted a raid at the home of Joe Arms II in Petros and then at his business Tops in Oliver Springs. Prosecutors say the scheme surrounded a $24 million contract with Ucore to clean up the former K-25 plant in Oak Ridge. Well, according to the plea agreement, Arms channeled a system of false invoices and cash payments from 2011 to 2013. Prosecutors say that he also conspired with a tax preparer to reduce federal taxes that he owed to the IRS over several years. As a part of this plea deal, he will serve 12 months with 3 years probation. Well, we are on your side tonight with more on a recent scam alert. Knoxville police sending out a warning about a fake email that has definitely been making the rounds here in East Tennessee.
Yeah, we first brought you this story last night here at 6 o'clock. The Post claiming several women have disappeared from Knoxville within the past week and that the victims are boxed in by suspects in unmarked black cars. Well, Knoxville Police Chief David Roush is saying this is a hoax.
If certainly something dangerous is going on in our community, we are going to post that information immediately on our social media. We are going to have media releases through folks like Channel 6, and so please, pay attention to what's really going on.
Of course, officers also say this is a good reminder to be aware of your surroundings and make sure you park in well-lit areas if possible.
A Confederate memorial in Fort Sanders vandalized again. In fact, you can see it here in the pictures, covered up in what appears to be red spray paint. Now this, of course, it was vandalized back with paint last year, not long after the violent Charlottesville protests in August. Now we did reach out to the city to see if there were plans to remove that red spray paint. Now we're told still no decision yet, but crews will be on site soon to clean up the graffiti. Well, 22nd ranked Tennessee going after win number 14 this season.
That's right. The Vols hosting Vanderbilt, and Emily Proud is live inside Thompson Bowling Arena. Hey, Emily.
Hey, Kristen. Yeah, and Tennessee going for win number 2 over Vanderbilt. The last time they swept the doors, well, that was 5 years ago. We're going to talk about how they can do it coming up in sports.
Coming up, we'll introduce you to some Campbell County High School students who produced this documentary about the opioid epidemic, their message, and the change they'd like to see.
Going to be cloudy and cooler overnight, but the whole week's not going to stay that way. I'll explain next. You're watching WATE 6 on your side. News at 6.